It's not about being the richest person in the graveyard. It's about being able to be consistent with growth and lowering your risk, especially at the beginning of your retirement. Welcome to the Retire on Time podcast. I'm Mike Decker here with David Franson from Kedrick Wealth. As always, text your questions to 913-363-1234 and we will feature them on the show. Just remember, this is not financial advice. Do your research so you can do what is right for you. David, what do we got?
Hey, Mike, what's the difference between a dynamic buffered ETF and a target outcome buffered ETF?
We're getting technical here.
Yes, there are lots of little buzzwords there.
The listener is getting much more sophisticated than your maybe average advisor, dare I say.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've said, hey, why don't you use buffered ETFs? The two answers I get from financial professionals are, one, what are those? Or two, I've got a good thing going. I don't need to learn all these. Like we're fine.
Oh, no.
That complacency just drives me nuts.
Uh-huh.
So for all those who want to skip the advisor and go right to
Yeah.
a tool that may be used, basically the whole concept of this is saying, I'm concerned about a market top. I want some protection, and I don't know if bond funds are the right bit for me.
Okay.
Annuities, they're not liquid, so that concerns me. I'm looking for just a different way to go about it. Structured notes are illiquid for a certain period of time. I just want some protection mechanism in there. Entry level in introducing buffered ETFs.
Okay. All right.
Now,
Yeah.
I think the majority of buffered ETFs, just a quick shout out, there's really two companies that do these pretty well.
Oh.
You have First Trust, who they don't really advertise to the public. So I'm just letting you know they exist. They didn't endorse me to say this at all. It's just you can Google First Trust buffered ETFs, and you're going to see a whole array of them. And then you've got Calamos.
Okay.
Calamos is another one, just Calamos buffered ETFs. They take up the majority of the market share, and they do really well with how they build them, price them, and so on. BlackRock also has a couple that are out there. They're entering the space as well.
So do we anticipate that more companies will start?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. This buffered ETF, in my mind, is the securities world, their version of what the fixed indexed annuity has been doing for many years.
Oh, okay.
Providing upside protection or upside growth potential with downside, not protection, because there's no guarantee on these. It's just downside buffers or hedging against it. So here's roughly what you'd expect is, let's say you can get up to 10% or up to, let's say, 14% of the S&P, but you're going to have the first 10% on the downside buffered out. So if the markets go down 9%, you don't lose anything. You just have the expense ratio. If the markets go down 20%, the first 10% was buffered out. So you would basically only lose 10% or half.
Okay.
Right. So that's the idea, is you're giving up some of the upside to have some downside hedge or partial protection or protection within a certain range. That's it.
Okay.
Let's not play with the game that this is better than it is. It's just black and white, nice and simple.
And this is probably for people who need this money for their income. They're retired.
No, this isn't really an income product.
Okay.
Yeah, this is for portfolio. We use it for the reservoir.
Oh, I see.
So that's our income necessarily play, but not everyone uses it for income. This is more often a bond fund alternative. So take your typical portfolio, 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. It's stock funds or equity funds. Bond funds is typically what ends up being. Well, bond funds aren't very good. They're not very good. I don't like bond funds, generally speaking. There are times where it makes sense, but for the past decade, most of the time, in my opinion, they didn't make a lot of sense. Introducing buffered ETFs.
Okay.
Now, the more protective or the less risky ones, they're typically called like max buffers.
Okay.
They're maximizing, not 100%, but as much as they can. So you might get like 7% on the upside and 50% on the downside. So these are target buffered ETFs. The question was, what's the difference?
Yeah.
Target buffered ETFs, it's a 1 year point to point typically, to where if you put money in or around the date that it starts, that a year from now, if the markets go up, let's say it's a max buffer, if the markets go up 10%, you might have 7% because you're capped at 7. Market goes up 20%, you still are around that 7, and then you have to account for expense ratio. So the fees. If the markets go down 30%, you don't lose anything, just fees. Markets go down 50%, you didn't lose anything but fees if there was a 50% buffer.
I see.
That buffer, that downside changes over time. So you can't buy it and hold it with the same buffer. Some years it's like 90%, some years it's like 50%, some years it's 40%. It's whatever the market allows them to buy in. So that pricing is going to affect the protection that you can possibly get. Hence why they're not principal protected, but they offer protective mechanisms to help from the downside.
Okay.
Now, that's kind of the OG, the original when it comes to the just structured 1 year. It's almost always 1 year, very, very simple. Then the dynamic buffers were coming out as well. Dynamic buffer just says, well, what if we take one ETF or one fund and we just blend all 12 months of the target buffers? So it's not like you can't not go down. Don't you love that double negative?
Yeah. Right.
You're going to go up or down, but it's the hybrid or the compilation of all of the 12 buffers in one, which basically says you've got upside growth, and it will take all of the pricing of all of the 12 ones and slowly let you grow with the S&P. But if the markets go down, you're not going to go down as much with it because that dynamic nature of a lot of it being buffered out. So it would slow down the decay of a market collapse.
All right.
So I'd love to give you hypothetical, just rough examples. I don't want to, promise anything or say something that I can't illustrate.
All right.
Okay, so that's the tricky part with this. But you can look up. Here's a couple of them. So you've got from First Trust BUFD, BUFD, and BUFV. So BUFD is better for a deeper crash. BUFV is for a lower crash. Those are the First Trust dynamic buffered ETFs.
Okay.
IVVM is one from BlackRock that's also pretty popular. And then IVVM is more dynamic, so it's more like the BUFV as in Victor.
Okay.
It's going to slow on the downside, but you're not going to get all of the upside or as quick of as much of the upside as possible. You're going to kind of cap out if the markets have great returns.
Okay.
So all things considered, what I appreciate about this is the humble investor who says, we may be at a market top. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm trying to stay rich. I'm not going to try and time the market, but I want to slow down the downside risk. So they might, instead of having 60-40 split, say, well, gosh, maybe I'll have 50 or 40% in stocks. And instead of my bond funds, I'm putting in buffered ETFs. And they're just doing a different version of an allocation plan that just has these that are, I want to say more stable. They're not fixed income. They've got less downside risk, even though they're giving up some of the upside potential growth. They have a smaller range of what they could do.
That's what I was just going to say. It sounds to me like the when you look at like a typical like line or whatever of stock valuations, right? It can be like a roller coaster. It sounds like maybe the roller coaster is much smaller on a buffered.
Yeah, you're downgrading from the Six Flags Thriller to the Snoopy Land Kid Ride.
Okay.
You're not going to get hurt on that one.
No.
But that's
All right.
okay.
It is.
I mean, when you're retired, it's not about being the richest person in the graveyard.
Yeah.
It's about being able to be consistent with growth and lowering your risk, especially when you retire at the beginning of your retirement, because that's when you have the most longevity risk. If you're 80 years old, 85 years old, and you've got like 5 years left, and you could just ladder all that out with like CDs, right? Because you have enough money, you're not going to spend it all. Your portfolio could be very different than someone who's 60 years old.
Yeah.
It might have 20 to 30 years where they need their money to last.
Right.
They can't take it on the chin with a significant market crash. So buffered ETFs, I have found to be an effective tool to incorporate in a growth portfolio just to bring a different element to lowering the volatility, the roller coaster.
Yeah. And do we think, or do we know, like, if these are similar to bond funds, is one cheaper
They're not
than the other?
technically similar to bond funds.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, correct.
Because
on
it's
that.
equities with option contracts that are the buffers. Bond funds are debt instruments. It's a different asset class altogether.
Okay.
Great point there.
And is one more expensive than the other? Like, is the expense ratio of a buffered ETF, would it be less than maybe a bond fund? Or
I mean, some bond funds can be very pricey, but generally speaking, bond funds or ETFs are cheap.
Okay. All right.
And buffered ETFs, not as cheap.
Oh, okay.
But if you look at net of fee performance,
Uh-huh.
I would wager that bond funds have more growth potential net of fees.
Ah.
And the reason is if bonds have averaged 2 or 3% year over year, and you might expect, let's say a max buffered ETF that has up to 7% growth, 50% downside buffer, if you have that for a couple of years, you might average around 5% growth net of fees.
Ah.
Might, keyword, these are very
Yeah.
general assumptions. Situations are going to change, but I believe buffered ETFs have more growth potential than bond funds.
Right on.
They both have risk. They both have benefits and detriments. But yeah, dynamic is more of a set it and forget it, nice long-term strategy, a nice long-term play. Target is more very rigid. From this point to this point, this is what I'm getting. And those play well into different scenarios for different types of investors. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, make sure to tell a friend, leave a rating, subscribe to us, or comment if you want. Heck, put your questions in the comments. Have a good time there. We'll read them and get back to you on that. As always, we want to thank you for spending your time, your most precious asset with us today. We'll see you in the next episode.